Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Hope you're having a fabulous Tuesday. Hope whatever you set out to your goals, I hope you reached your goals. I hope you had good communication with people. I hope you were productive. Today's show will focus on a particular type of narrative that has to do with children. The title of the program is Do We Still Believe Children Are the Future? Some years ago, my hero and many of your hero, many of you is your hero too. Muhammad Ali put out a film called The Greatest. What's memorable about the film is the title track, the theme song, which was The Greatest, which was sung by George Benson. It's an uplifting song. It talks about children of the future, the greatest love of all, if they say. Lately, though, as I tend to look at politics, as I tend to look at society, and just the human condition, how we deal with one another, the back and forth over vaccines, the up and downs about how we teach our children, has literally brought me to a quandary in this aspect that do we really, really, really believe deep in our hearts as a country, as a nation, and worldwide, really, do we believe that children are the future? And the reason I say that, brothers and sisters, is because I personally have an affront to how the children are being treated. Not just how they're being treated, but how their futures are being subjugated for the right now. We now have a situation scenario where laws and decisions cripple, in many regards, the future of our children. So we say, do we believe they are the future? We're not giving them necessarily a future. Part of this conversation, if you will, and this soliloquy comes from the fact that, yes, I was a public school teacher. I taught severely most disturbed children. And what we had to deal with then was the fact that there was a select group of children who had issues regarding their behavior, regarding learning disabilities. And we questioned the quality of their future, but we never questioned the fact that they would have one. As we look around now, some of the most fundamental, rudimentary things that establish and have foundational growth for children are now being attacked. I'm not talking about nutrition programs back in the Reagan years where they tried to say that a pack of ketchup equaled a vegetable. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about systemic, purposeful, hurtful, toxic things that affect our children. Now, you don't have to be a dad. You don't have to be a mom. You got to be a human being. When you look at a child, one of the things that we really, really spend time on is what is the future of that child? And the thing about what is the future of that child has a lot to do with what is the welfare of the child? What is the welfare and the condition of the people who care for the child? Over and over and over and over again, brothers and sisters, it seems that we have kicked the can down the road. In education, I've talked about certain aspects of how public education became for-profit education, which became a damn mess, if you will. Our public schools now are in a state of flux whereby they're not producing world-class children and world-class students because they don't have world-class instructors and they don't have world-class intent to help produce that. Over and over and over, brothers and sisters, we have become a society that produces, inferior products, inferior effort, and then we expect for the children to figure it out. Right now, we're in a situation, brothers and sisters, where we find people who have gone through a process as children. On the other end, as adults, we find that they're troubled. Some are broken, some of them confused, and we find ourselves dealing with topics that we didn't deal with as children ourselves. Was there poverty? Yes. Was there war? Yes. Was there, crime? Yes. But it still was buffered by the fact that we had a future. In 2021, we're looking at a growing prison population. We're looking at a growing juvenile correction population that nobody is talking about. These are not places, brothers and sisters, that produce productive citizens at the rate that we need them. And again, over and over and over again, we are recycling things. I'm going to show a clip that has a little bit to do with what I'm talking about. Now, I don't want people to get upset. I'm going to tell you the clip is Disturbing. I'll put that out there. Now, the clip is disturbing, but I want you to look at some of the nuance of how this thing is put out and how it comes together. I'm not going to say anything. You're probably going to know what I'm going to say, but I'm not going to say anything because I want everybody to understand that this, brothers and sisters, is endemic of the things that we're dealing with. Are we going to protect our children? Are we going to invest in their futures? Why are we talking about we're still talking about brothers and sisters that we want our kids to go to school. We want them to go to school and get great educations. We want them to go to college and get degrees. But we saddle them with massive amounts of debt. They're working through the debt. They're not working their best lives in terms of going out and pursuing advanced degrees because they have to pay off student loans. We're fighting about student loans. We're fighting about vaccines. We're fighting about certain things about history. People are inviting things into the public discussion about curriculum that has nothing to do about curriculum. People are living their worst lives through the future of our children, and we got to talk about it. I'm Preacher Moss. This is a Shout Out Show. Let's get it started. All right, brothers and sisters, thank you so much for coming back. The topic of our show today is, do we still believe that children are the future? And my answer is, if you believe that children are the future, then damn it, start investing in their futures. Before we get into this discussion, brothers and sisters, I'm going to take a pause for the cause. I want to make sure that we're shouting out some of our brothers and sisters. Shout out to Sister Naima Griffin. She's dealing with a health issue in her family. Peace and blessings to you and your family, as well as Sister Ika. She's dealing with health issues. Hope she can make it on the show. If not, we understand as well. Brothers and sisters, if you have anybody that's not doing well, health issues, or just somebody who just needs to pick up, you know what? Put them on the show. I may not do it on the show, but I would definitely make the wall for those people, okay? That's number one. Number two, if you're coming on the Shout Out Show for the first time, thank you very much. But I'm not going to treat you like you're a wallflower. You got to get up off yourself and you got to get out and you got to apply yourself. Get into the comment section. Let us know what you're talking about. Our topic today is not one that you want to sit back on. You want to press the whatever button it is, enter and get your comments on today. This is one of those shows, brothers and sisters. I'm not going to say I'm hyped up, but as a teacher, former educator, yes, I am hyped up. And I do hold near and dear to me every student that I ever had because I treat them like they were my kids. And I feel like when parents trust you with their kids as teachers, you need to understand that they're doing something that is amazing. It is transformational. Therefore, when the title with "Do we believe that children are our future?" it's not to everybody. Clearly, there are people who believe that children are our future. However, there are some that I question. I question the politics of the day. I question the way that education has been run for the last several years. I question how during the Trump era, we had Betsy DeVos, who had never run a school. She had never taught a class. She never attended a PTA meeting. She didn't know about public school. I mean, come on, this lady never did anything. I don't even know if she walked her kids to school, but she was in charge of education. So you see where I'm going with this, brothers and sisters. And I'm not just going to say it's a thing here in the United States. You know, the level of child protection has dropped. When I'm talking about education, I'm talking about child welfare. I'm just talking about the scope of how we protect our children has dropped. And it's become more and more difficult to do so because the elements are out there. All right, so let's go ahead and get our people out here. Let's get our shout outs in. We got Sister Mary Moss, Mama Son. What's going on, Mama Son? Thank you so much for coming to the show. Hope you're doing well. You're feeling safe. We appreciate you as always. Next up, I'll talk for she 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. A Canadian ambassador, all the way from Toronto. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We always appreciate you, brother. Always on time. Much love to you and your family. Give them my duas and my salams. All right. Next up, we got Sister Ree. Sister Ree Chase, all the way from Houston, Texas, brothers and sisters, always on the show. There's to support. She is our show craft services director and the show dietitian, making sure that the topics we talk about are tasty and scrumptious. All right. Peace and blessing to you, Ree, and your family. Next up, Bilal Salahuddin. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My brother, glad you can make it on the show. You getting to be a regular, man. I already told you part of the Shout Out Show family. So introduce yourself. So when you see somebody, ask them how they doing. And brothers and sisters, you make sure that Brother Bilal is welcome too to the show. All right. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Brother Bilal. Appreciate you. Give my salams to your family. We got Sonia Salahuddin Dalton. All right. She says, salams to brother, blessings. You share opinions on this platform. Allow us to think deeply and heartfelt about issues that should concern us all. I appreciate you, Sister Sonia. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And we hope that we make good use of your time, that you lend us your time, and hopefully we are deserving of it, and we earn the ability to have you come back to the show. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Next up, Sister Ika coming all the way from Depok, Indonesia. I already gave her a shout out. Peace and blessings to you, Sister Ika. Thank you again for your support. Next up, got Sister Nama Griffin. I already gave you a shout out. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sister. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate you. And again, peace and blessings, and may Allah give you shifa in your family. And thank you so much again for supporting our platform. Next up, we got my brother. Well, this is not my brother. This is my sister. This is Yolanda Thomas, Queen Yolanda Thomas, who I could spend a whole show talking about Yolanda, just her generosity and kindness throughout the years. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sister. Good to see you. Peace and blessings to you. And belated happy anniversary. All right. Much love to you. Next up. And we got Sister Satana, our consultant producer, of which none of this would be possible. I could not move my hands like this. I could not do the robot or nothing like that because she is controlling the back end of this thing, and we appreciate you as always. Hope that you're feeling better, Sister Satana. All right. Do we still believe children are the future? Let me tell you where this whole conversation begins. It begins with something that I saw on CNN. Now, I'm going to let this video play. Sister Satana is going to bring it in. I'm going to let this video play, and I just want to watch it. We're going to stop it at about the 3-minute mark, and then we're going to come back and have a conversation. I feel these days that the idea that we are not protecting children has become sport. It's a spectator sport. Whether it's over in a foreign country, whether it's here in the United States with sex trafficking, we have got to a level, brothers and sisters, where the economy of protecting children is slowly diminishing. When I say slowly diminishing, I don't mean just the evil things that are out there, the pedophiles. I'm not even talking about that. That's one aspect of it, of course. I'm talking about the willingness, brothers and sisters, to retract opportunities from children, to take away from their future for right now. I can talk about tax cuts and things like that, but that's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the base understanding that the children have a right. They have a right. They have an insistence to at least have a chance. We are turning out more and more people who, in my estimation, have flawed childhoods, have deep pain and breakage in their soul, and somehow they find themselves being able to make decisions that affect children, the children's future, their welfare. When you say a child, you're not talking about a child. You're talking about something generational. It's that child and that child's child and that child's child. So I am talking more so in a transformational fixture or a bit of language, but it's important. I'm going to show you this video. It's disturbing. We're going to be right back. Satana, when you get a chance, go ahead and roll it.
We're back with our world lead now in a distressing story out of Afghanistan showing the harsh reality of the humanitarian crisis engulfing the country, especially post-Taliban rule. Desperate families so impoverished, they tell CNN they have no choice but to sell their young daughters into some twisted form of marriage. In this exclusive report, CNN witnesses the tragic fate facing these helpless little girls in this culture where girls and women are too often treated horrifically. The parents gave us full access and permission to talk to the children and show their faces because they say they cannot change the practice themselves. CNN's Anna Corin reports.
In this arid, desolate landscape, not a scrap of vegetation in sight, lies a makeshift camp for some of Afghanistan's internally displaced. Among its residents, 9-year-old Parwana. Her bright pink dress squeals of laughter and childhood games, a ruse to the horrors unfolding in this unhospitable environment. Parwana's family moved to this camp in Baghdis province 4 years ago after her father lost his job. Humanitarian aid, menial work, earning $3 a day, providing the basic staples to survive. But since the Taliban takeover 2.5 months ago, any money or assistance has dried up. And with 8 mouths to feed, Parwana's father is now doing the unthinkable. I have no work, no money, no food. I have to sell my daughter, he says. I have no other choice. Parwana, who dreams of going to school and becoming a teacher, applies makeup. A favourite pastime for little girls, but Parwana knows she is preparing for what awaits her. My father has sold me because we don't have bread, rice and flour. He has sold me to an old man. The white-bearded man, who claims he's 55 years old, comes to collect her. He's bought Parwana for 200,000 Afghanis, just over $2,000 US. Covered up, Parwana whimpers as her mother holds her. This is your bride, please take care of her, says Parwana's father. Of course I will take care of her, replies the man. His large hands grab her small frame. Parwana tries to pull away. As he carries her only bag of belongings, she again resists, digging her heels into the dirt. But it's futile. The fate of this small, helpless child has been sealed. Child marriage is nothing new in poor rural parts of Afghanistan, but human rights activists are reporting.
Okay. Everybody collect themselves. Let me collect myself. First of all, how do you set up for a news story and just watch that happen? I understand the merits of the story, but I also understand the merits of humanity. We talk about it as humanitarian crisis. It's a non-humanitarian crisis, brothers and sisters. The cameraman, the reporter, the sound person, nobody said this is wrong. Now, you may lose your job at CNN for engaging or interceding, but I feel personally that you'll be rewarded in a much bigger way than to let a 9-year-old girl go with a 55-year-old man. He said he was 55. He looked like he was 105. My point, brothers and sisters, even this is not a representation of what's happened after the Taliban took over. This has been going on. And the father says he has nothing to do. He lost his job 2 months ago, and this is where we find ourselves. I'm going to tell you something. I know bad fathers. I know darn near absent fathers that wouldn't let this happen to their children. And it's not about money. It's not about providing. It is just the right thing. The fiduciary responsibility that we have to our children, the fiduciary responsibility we have to their lifestyle and their future supersedes everything. We used to make jokes about a woman named Sally Struthers who used to sit around in Africa and look at all the starving children. And we used to joke that she was full. And we were like, hey, Sally, you want to do something for the starving children? Whatever it is you're eating, give them half. And this has become so routine, brothers and sisters. We turn our heads sometimes, but then sometimes we watch because it's presented to us in terms of an interest story, but it's also presented as entertainment. The lead up to this thing is phenomenal. The graphics are perfectly centered. The father and the mother have agreed to be there at the same time. Who, brothers and sisters, who would invite people to look at this travesty? And we have the same thing here. We have the rich, the Jeffrey Epsteins and the Bill Gates and the Donald Trumps and Prince Andrews and people who are being brought up on that I won't say being brought up, but they're suspect for hanging out with a known pedophile. And here we are. What's the difference between Afghanistan and what we see here? I don't know what the level of existence is. I don't know what the level of acceptance is, but I don't need to know. At a very, very basic level, we know that it's wrong. And we have become numb to the fact that these things are wrong because we accept wrong. We accept less. And when you get to the point where you start accepting less from the children, you will find that you're going to get less in terms of children believing in themselves. That's the whole thing about we believe in their futures. Are you able to instill in them that they have enough value and they should have enough confidence to believe in themselves down the road? This is religious ideology, brothers and sisters. This is prophetic tradition. This is something in every piece of Abrahamic religion, creedal statements that we must protect our children. The bounty of marriage is that you produce children, not you produce excuses for not taking care of children. Over and over, brothers and sisters, we have watched a political process that has distanced us from the way that we raise our children, has distanced us from the way that we put our children through educational process, has distanced us from the way that children seek justice and equity in this country. And it's happening in other countries. But in this country, brothers and sisters, we have built our whole brand on the fact that we'll never be those folks. And literally, the highest up, the same as Kanye West says, those up with the highest up have the lowest self-esteem. We have gotten to the lowest self-esteem in the aspect of how we protect our children. If you can't protect the children, then you can't realistically give them a future. And the reason you can't give them a future, because if a child watches you not protect them, if a child watches you ineffective in their welfare, they can't believe in you. Thus, the future is something that's always going to be in flux because you didn't provide the example that they needed. We now have politics, brothers and sisters, and laws and courts trying to raise our kids. We do. We run the parents through situations, we run the teachers through situations, we run all the people who are designed to help the children with all kinds of hoops. Whereby, in the end, we can't deal with the welfare of the child. You can give me a ton of excuses, but I'm going to give you the same repertoire of reason, which is the fact that who's responsible? Who's responsible? I like to say that a child's future is a representation of the parents' decision, or in some cases, lack of decision. And as we tend to move away from responsibility in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases, that whole idea that it takes a village to raise a child, well, hell, what's the matter if the village is a bunch of condos? If the village, brothers and sisters, is gentrified? If the village, brothers and sisters, is gerrymandered? Where our children don't even have the mobility to look around and make solid choices at young ages. Young ages. Did I benefit from a childhood, a great childhood? Absolutely. And I'm sure many of you did too. There was a certain security of going to a neighborhood school that the neighborhood teachers had the best interest of the children in mind when we showed up. I have a good friend that told me that because of COVID and teacher shortages, that Our child couldn't even go to school. I was stunned as a former educator. For a moment, I almost said, "You lying." But these are the realities. We're talking about vaccines against COVID. At the same time, you can't tell me anybody, even watching the show, who didn't go through the MMR vaccinations to be able to go to school. Mumps, measles, and rubella. And we're still arguing over a COVID vaccine, watching people die as we do it. And what was said about the COVID vaccine, the children's immune system, they didn't know about it. Again, gambling away the future. The point is, we still believe the children are the future. I do. I do. And I'm sure many of you do. But what we need to do is, potentially, brothers, is try to find a way to express that to the powers that be, the Bidens, the Trumps, the GOP, the Democrats, the Libertarians, to let them know that if our children are walking around and if their futures are in any regards threatened by your inefficiency, then we will take you down. You are not suitable for your post. Why not? I'm not saying you have to have a PTA, brothers and sisters, but you gotta have a point of view. You have to have a point of view. You have to have some place where you draw your line in the sand and say that this is not acceptable. Over and over and over and over and over again, brothers and sisters, we find ourselves in conversations that should have nothing to do with our children. We spend time at the congressional and the constitutional level about bathrooms in school, making sure that it's a boys' bathroom, it's a girls' bathroom, and there's a shim bathroom, a she and a him, a shim bathroom. And we're arguing these points, brothers and sisters. It's about these things, but we're not talking about the overall welfare of the children. The things that are introduced in school and curriculum are meant to confuse children. Let kids be kids. Let children be children. And if you can't let them be children, then leave them alone. And let them deal with people who love them, who nourish them, who want to educate them, and most importantly, want to protect them. I'm going to jump on our religious folks. You know why? I'm going to tell you why. Because folks, as believers, brothers and sisters, these things are inherent in every religious condition. In the Bible, it's the same way. In the Quran, it's the same way. We even have Sharia law, that Maqasid al-Sharia, that says one of the major protections of Sharia is protection of the youth and their welfare, which also institutes the fact that we have to look at the strength of families. When I say the strength of families, I don't mean just the normal central family. I'm talking about a communal understanding of people needing people with emotional support, financial support, educational support. We have to broaden in some regards and knock down walls to make sure that we're inclusive of the needs of our kids. You say a child in the first grade can't articulate what they need in the 11th grade. The one thing that the first grader and 11th grader have in common is that they need to be able to trust us. And we need to be able to show them trust. We need to be able to show them growth and let them know that in your process, you have a right to some of the things that adults have been chasing their whole life. The right to truth, justice, happiness, equity. These are all things, brothers and sisters, but they're under attack now. They are under attack. And the more and more and more and more we get away from that, we find situations where, I'm sorry, did I say we have increased school shootings? I'm sorry, did I say we have increased mental health issues? Why? Why? Because adults, not all adults, but enough to make the case, because adults in many regards, brothers and sisters, have dropped the ball on children because they don't vote. because they don't buy your product. Because when you look at a child, you have not only an agenda, but you have intention. And it's to exploit the child for whatever financial gain or whatever. The whole idea of that curriculum in the state of Virginia is going to be the deciding factor. Education, which is miseducation, people talking about current critical race theory, which is not being taught in the school. They're talking more about critical race theory than they are about advanced math, advanced English, supplemental reading, helping remedial services, helping the children who struggle with certain things like reading and math. We're talking about critical race theory. That is not even, at this point, it wasn't even taught in colleges, brother. Here we have, again, people who cloud, I want to say, the child progress cycle for selfish means. So listen, that's my half hour. The question was, do we still believe that children are the future? I still believe that children are the future. I hope that you believe that children are the future. And brothers and sisters, for those that don't, we need to get at them. We need to get at them. And they can't have free reign of our politics and our religious institutions and our financial institutions. We need to get at them. You know why? Because George Benson said children are the future, and I agree. All right, let's get to our close here. Let's go ahead and get our sponsors done. What's going on, Brother Eric? Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. Do we have any more comments, Satana? There we go. Children can't help but be confused because adults are all over the place these days. This is true. Mama San, this is very true. All right, so let's go ahead and get to our sponsors. We want to thank www.befinanciallyindependent.com. Again, that's befinanciallyindependent.com. Thank you so much for supporting our show. If you want to get great advice about your finances, retirement, wealth building, but also wealth retention, give a call at 188 496 6845. Again, that's 188 496 6845. And if you're interested in quality graduate level doctoral experience in Islamic leadership, Islamic studies, then you got to check out Bayan Islamic Graduate College, brother. Bayan Islamic Graduate School, a wonderful place. I think they're still taking applications for the spring. You have to check it out, but you don't want to miss out. I would highly endorse them, and they have one of the best programs of Master's Divinity for Muslim chaplaincy in the country. So make sure you check them out. So listen, that's our show today. You guys have been wonderful. Inshallah, I'll see you tomorrow. Preacher on. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for tuning in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Well, team, we've come to the end of yet another show. And I have to say, I had a good time, and I hope that you had a good time as well. Listen, at this part of the show, we have no more show. I could literally sing a song saying we have no more show. However, to spare all of us that embarrassment and chaos, I'm just going to say, please join us tomorrow here on the Shout Out Show, Monday through Thursdays, and every first Saturday, we do our Saturday Spotlight. Here we are again, 5 to 5:30 on the Central Time. And of course, we're going to do our rebroadcast at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock p.m. And of course, that would be 6 o'clock on the West Coast. So, time for you to go, because it's time for me to go. I think I will do that song. Thank you for coming to the show. Thank you for coming to the show. That's all the lyrics I wrote. But you get the idea. See you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum.